Hey everyone, we're here at Cornhucket, and last year at Cornhucket I did a video that some people may remember with Dave Norrie, Trevor Watring, and Kim, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Klisiak, okay. And we talked about Flatland, the state of Flatland as it was at that time, how some types of riding are also Flatland, and how freestyle can intermix together. And Dave, I think you have a good idea of where we could take this.
Well,
So
I think just bringing it to like present time, we were able to come out to Cornhucket this year and have a flatland spot. So between Carl's basically initiative and reclamation to help make it happen, they poured a slab for us. And I think that's the kind of steps that need to happen, because there are all kinds of riders here that are dirt, trials riders, street riders, and they obviously intrigued by Flatland, but they might be a little bit intimidated, which we talked about last time. And so it's right in the middle of Cornhucket, so it's spotlighted.
Right.
And we put a little jam together, and it was, I don't know, you talk about, what was your experience? You were in the jam.
I mean, it was a good jam. Like, a lot of kids were psyched. Actually, people, we wanted it to be more like, I don't know what you said, like organic, where like anyone can like go and do the jam with us. Everyone that rode Flatland could do the jam with us, or do the little show that we did. So like even the little kids that could only do, double peg on the ground and like pick their bike back up, they were doing it. They were having fun doing it.
And they were getting the same appreciation and respect as anyone going out doing, double decade or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty cool. It's a good experience. I think a lot of the kids are really into it. I just think they need a little more, they need a push in that direction just to kind of help them out.
I think the exposure part's important.
Yeah.
Like having everyone here together brings both things together, whereas like if there's a Flatland event going on, there's less likely to be like all those other types of riders there to see it at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of why you see all those kids riding here trying Flatland and stuff. That I don't know if it happens at Flatland jams or not, because I've been to an actual Flatland event.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a niche. It's a bit of a niche.
Well, Flatland riders really want to push Flatland. I mean, they truly want kids to get into it, and they just don't know how to do it. And they always talk about it, but they never take the initiative, or like they don't know how to go about it. And really, I think it's more events like this where
Or flatlanding at a skate park.
Yeah,
Where
that's
there's
exactly what
people
that's
at.
just came to my mind. It's like you go, and if you're an overall rider like Trevor and does some flatland tricks at a skate park, that's gonna like spark some interest. But I think the other
Every
side
time
of
you
it
ride.
is when you have, we were doing a show. Let's say we were doing a show, and I kind of orchestrated that in the sense of I wanted everyone to have, a place in spot. We're gonna keep, the pace moving by taking turns, and everyone was welcome. But there's a certain format, and I don't know how the volume will be with this, but there was a certain format that I was holding, but I was open to whoever could come and ride. As I was saying, it was very organic, like you said.
Yeah.
Like people came out, and I heard other riders encouraging riders, saying, "Hey, go out there and do your flatland skills," and they were doing like tail whip, bunny hop tail whips, walkers, and crazy street style, and we loved it because it just expanded. It started with maybe 15 riders, and it grew to maybe 20 plus.
Yeah.
And Kim, you
and
had.
Piggybacking on what Dave said, I think one of the biggest takeaways is how many of these kids already do ride Flatland. Like the animal got out there and was doing crazy hang 5 variations that could be in any Flatland contest. Like he could literally just take what he was doing and walk into and enter a Flatland contest. And I don't think a lot of these kids realize that what they are doing is Flatland and could be in a contest. And to get Flatland bigger, we need to somehow tap these kids and get them to also be willing to attend Flatland contests and events, because they are riding Flatland. They're doing quite well at it.
That's something we talked about last time. Is that been like progressed at all? Has anything changed with that at all? Or
I spoke to some of the other flatland riders, and a lot of them. So I pitched that I think we need to do a push to get the street riders to start attending flatland contests, and there was a lot of pushback. A lot of flatlanders don't want it. They were like, no, they're not real flatlanders, and no, they don't really ride flat, and they won't dedicate their time to flat, which I say is bullshit. I mean, we saw kids today doing crazy hang 5 variations. You don't just learn that in 5 minutes. Those kids put hours and hours and hours of time, just like any other flatland, to learn that stuff. So I'm still in the boat that we need to welcome the street riders and get them, and that's how we grow flatland.
what I'll say to that, and anyone who does act like that, I don't know who you've heard who doesn't ride flatland say flatland's stupid. Whoever says flatland's dumb, no one. Whoever says flatland isn't hard, whoever disrespects flatland at all, nobody. Maybe a couple people here and there. So I don't understand why people would look at other people who are trying to actively take part in what they do and say, no, that's not real. I think that's just flat out stupid, to be honest.
Yeah, and my take is like, there's obviously so many aspects of riding. So like the competition side of it, to be a competitive flatland rider, you have to be committed. And so maybe it's not so much the end goal is to have more street riders in your flatland contest, but it's more like, I think about events like this, where we come to, a place where more people are going to be exposed to, more people are going to feel comfortable to dabble in their flatland skills that they already have and expand. Like the kid that put pegs on his bike that day, he could literally do nothing at the beginning of the day, and he was out there performing in the show, doing very simple tricks, getting the same kind of respect from the audience as all of us. And so I think there's two sides of it. One is, let's just make sure everyone knows that flatland is part of BMX.
Yeah,
and then two, if there's a street rider, like I think about Dave Volker's son, Cole, like he's got mad skills. Right. If he showed up at flatland contest and actually practiced to do a flatland run, he would be, I think, welcomed open arms with totally respect. But that's just one element of riding, competitive riding.
And I think too, like, I don't know, just from riding everything, the flatland scene, if you don't know what it's about, it's basically a big family. I mean, this is like the family aspect of like BMX, where like once you start doing flatland and everybody's like encouraging you, they welcome you with open arms when you do flatland. And it's something that you don't see in other styles of riding, because it takes so long to learn flatland and I think these people just been around forever. Everyone's friends. Everyone's like, it's cool. I mean, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm comparing to kids that go to a park or trails and they ride together.
Yeah.
I think there's still that same feeding off of each other, but with flatland it's a little bit more concentrated. Yeah. It's a little bit more focused, fine-tuning, and it's very repetitive. You have to do things over and over and over for a long period of time to be able to have anything that you can really take to a show or take to a contest. And not to disrespect any of the time that you put on the trails or the park or whatnot, but I feel like there's a little bit, if that's kind of your point, there's a little bit different sense of how you feed off each other.
Yeah.
And a park. Like, you have that experience more than I do.
But it's just, you guys have been riding, like, the flatland scene is old. I mean, it's the roots of BMX. And the guys have been riding together since they were 16, and they're in their late 40s, early 50s riding. So like anytime they see somebody that's willing to take that time and willing to like learn flatland, they're gonna open up their arms and be like, dude, come on in, like we'll show you how to do it.
Do you not feel that though in the skate park, in a skate park setting or trials?
It depends. Like if you're riding with your friends, that's one thing. But like you could go anywhere and immediately see a flatland rider, start riding flatland with them, you're best friends. It's like the
I
front
get-
brake thing, you know. It's like you see a front brake rider, you're like, yep, we're best friends now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that little niche family. But when you actually like, if you go to a set of trails and you're not that great at trails and you're barely clearing them and clipping, you're gonna get kicked out.
I see. Yeah.
You know?
Depending on the trails.
Yeah, depending on the trails.
But it's more like your point is that that's more likely to be maybe shunned away or not as accepted.
Yeah.
And I think it's partly because of the environment. We're on a flat area. It's like, here we are. Let's see what we got and let's feed off of each other, right?
Yeah.
Even like at a flatland contest, if you show up with a bike at a flatland contest, someone's gonna come talk to you. They're gonna introduce themselves and say, "Hey, do you want to ride?" You go into a skate park contest, nobody's gonna go out of their way to talk to you. You just kind of hang out there.
I don't know. I just want to make sure that like we're not coming off as like we're dissing any of the
No,
other disciplines.
no.
We're
So-
just making a point of like flatland, because for me it's like I would go to the beach and I'd go to ride, like, you know, my heyday was when I'd go to the beach and I'd ride and there'd be 6 guys riding hardcore and there'd be another, 10 or 12 guys that were kind of watching and somewhat participating.
Yeah.
But it was all like very, very
Together.
concentrated
Yeah.
and very together. And like, oh yeah, good, Nori. How about you do a decade out of that and do this sort of
Yeah.
building off each other.
Building off each other.
I think the concentration's a difference. If you go to a ramp contest, there's hundreds of people, and there isn't that need to make a new friend. There's hundreds of people there. And again, it's not a diss. It's just you don't go out of your way. You go to a flatland contest, there's 20 people.
Usually ramp contests are a little, they want to win. They're a little more like gun ho.
I think I have a little perspective here, too.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's a pretty big difference in what we're talking about because Flatland as a get together and when you have a lot of Flatland people together is usually a contest. But like in the skate park side of things, it's not always a contest. Like at Ray's, you can get, 50 people riding together at Ray's doing a similar thing. Whereas with Flatland, how often do you guys have 50 people together riding and it's not a contest? So like it's a totally different, I think we're talking about two kind of different things in that.
There's actually several big flatland jams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what he's saying is like most Flatlanders are alone most of the time in a parking lot doing their thing. And then it's like, okay, an event comes out, a jam, contest, whatever. And then now they're excited because now they get to ride with other Flatland riders.
Yeah, and it's almost like you've been a little bit in the closet, like
Yeah,
just
like
doing your
working
own
on
thing.
things, yeah.
and then you're kind of like, okay, now I'm here to share. Where in the skate park, you're always in it.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the same way. And I think with your point, so I went to, I was in UK and I went to Manchester and I found out there was a jam there. And sure enough, there was 30 riders there, which was amazing for me because I don't have anybody in my town that I ride with. And I ride mostly in groups when I come to Cornhucket or I go to old school events or I go to AFA. So that's where I get the other group of riders. And that's what's unfortunate about Flatland is that there's few and far between. But I was so thrilled because I showed up in Manchester and like you said, there's guys from London, there's guys from all over UK that all showed up and there's 30 riders there.
Yeah.
30 riders that were able to just ride and share the day with.
Yeah.
And another thing to add that I was thinking about what you guys were talking before too is like the concept, man, I lost where I was at. Shit. Let's bring it back. Bring it back. Reel it back in. Oh, fuck. What all have we talked about?
We were talking about concept, we were talking about the...
Oh, I got it. So the thing we talk about when you're talking about growing Flatland and getting more people into it is that like we talk about exposure and things of that nature. You also think too about like if somebody hasn't been exposed to Flatland, their desire to put that time into doing it probably is like very, very little. So when you compare it to like coming here and you see it and you have people who are actively like, hey, come do this. And it's different because like me growing up, I knew Flatland existed. I knew it was crazy, but like I would have never, unless there was somebody else right there at the skate park, like Trevor. This is what I was going to say about you is like when you talk about like people doing flatlands. Like usually whenever we're having a session with Trevor, he'll end up in the flat bottom doing some flatland, and a few people will be down there with him. Like, hey, how are you doing what you're doing? There's been multiple times where we have that. And so like where I'm going with that is just like, I think there's less people in general who are deciding to dedicate that energy when they're already like a park or street oriented rider. They're dedicating that time to this thing, so then they have to segment it off to this other part of riding that they're not exposed to. So like if we want to grow the flatland side, I think you have to have something like this where it's an other event with flatland as a dedicated time slot, and you say like what you guys did in bringing other people into it.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. So it's almost like you have to have some ambassadors of Flatland that set up a very welcoming arena and situation to be like, they called it the Dave Norrie show. That's what Carl called it, and I'm like, wait, this is not what we're gonna call this. Thank you very much, but this is like the Flat-It. That's what I called it, Flat-It Jam, because I just want people to come and ride flat. And do whatever you feel like you're inspired to do. And so I think what your point is like how we can incorporate that at more events that will just be like, hey, we're going to go session a little flatland over here. Come and do, whatever feels good to you on flat.
And what do you think is the general consensus among flatland? Like, do people want more people to start doing flat? Like, is that what people want?
Yes.
I would say, I would say yes, for sure.
Probably shouldn't say other types of flatland aren't real flatland then. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I'm bitter about that.
Wait, what?
I said you probably shouldn't say that other types of flatland, like what the street guys do, aren't flatland then.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's that whole like, the fast jump around 180, whoppers and things. A lot of
I heard it
don't
here.
like that. A lot
I
of
heard it
flatlanders
here.
Do not like it, and I disagree. You're from flat ground, it's flatland. That's my argument.
I can't remember who it was, but I heard like, oh, this ain't that kind of jam. I heard somebody say that here.
To me, no.
Yeah, and so who's to say? Like in the early 80s, if you came out and did a whopper or
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
yeah, I mean, mad respect for that. And then hopefully it's inspiring them to get them to see other things that they could add to that. Add to that repertoire and build on it, because there's that human desire to push yourself and learn new things, and this is just a different arena to do it in. It's my opinion.
And I'm not trying to like start any fires here, but what I'm getting at is like, if you want to grow something, you gotta welcome like everybody in. You can't pick and choose and be like, all right, you're allowed. Nope, you're not. Nope, you don't do the right thing. Because that's the exact same thing as cities saying no bikes allowed at the skate park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, jams like this really do help a lot. I think they work a lot better than just, a flatland. Like, flatlanders only come out to flatland jams. That's the thing that sucks, is you got to make it to where, like, I don't know, a jam where it's like, all right, we're going to be at the skate park. Did it.
He did it.
He did it.
He did it.
I jumped over 5 people.
He jumped over five people.
Like bunny hop?
No, on a ramp.
Okay.
Was it flatland?
Anyway,
so go ahead.
Oh man, I lost my train of thought with that.
you're talking about flatlanders go to flatland
Yeah.
So what they
jams.
need to do with that is somebody needs to throw a jam, and this could be multiple people. It doesn't have to be just one, in just multiple areas, but be like, all right, we're going to the skate park. It's a ramp flat jam.
That happened in Chicago, right? Or Illinois or Indiana. Somebody did that. You went to it because you told me you weren't going to go. And then you did go, and I was sad.
Her jam.
So
I throw jams.
you did it.
Yeah.
I knew
So
somebody did
my
that.
preference is always nice to throw a Flatland Jam at a skate park if possible, because then I can both invite my skate park friends. And, I'm one of those hybrid people. I'm not good at either, but I hang out in both communities. So I like to throw a Flatland Jam near a skate park so I can invite both people and have that kind of cross-pollination of the ideas and the concepts and the people.
Yeah, and I think you're along the right lines. And what I'll add to that is, like, if you want to get more people into it, I think that's a great concept of how to do it.
Yeah, but she threw a Flatland Jam at a skate park. That's not going to get the riders there, though, the street park riders there.
I invited them, they just didn't come.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be the right person.
Well, it's got to be the right
Draw, right?
like wording or draw, yeah. So like if you did, I don't know, if you did more like, all right, we're gonna have a jam at the skate park, but we're gonna have a Flatland section too. We're gonna have a Flatland Jam too at the same time. Hopefully you could get the Flatlanders to come out and they could be doing their thing, just like how Kim had it, but wording it in a way where both genres of riding are stoked to come out.
Mm-hmm. You got to basically use the blueprint of today. You got best trick events on these things or whatever you're going to have that are skate park things. Yeah. And then this is the time slot for the Flatland thing. Or maybe it's Flatland is most of it, and then you have the skate park thing, and then to sweeten the deal, you like make a really good prize for the skate park section so that people are like, oh, I need to go to that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's going to grow Flatland, because it just doesn't have the exposure. Like, when Nori was doing shows in the 80s, all the kids were going crazy. He's doing shows in the mall, bike shops, SeaWorld, wherever he could, and all the kids were getting stoked on riding. Granted, BMX was new and fresh, but I mean,
and it wasn't it wasn't segregated as much. It wasn't like you're a Flatland rider, you're a trials rider, you're a park rider.
Yeah.
You just rode BMX. Like, that's pretty much. So you did a little bit of everything, I think, at that time.
So, I mean, that's one of the best ways to get new riders is to be there, show them. If you can show a kid how to do, drop the pegs and put it back on, that's Flatland. Get back on it, it's Flatland.
I mean, the one jam that we had at Worcester when Marty is his name showed up.
Oh, Marty, yeah.
And you guys were doing Flatland, and everyone was like, "What?" And then I'm sure. I mean, I can't.
We had a little circle going,
but I'm pretty sure there's probably other people that were getting involved too, trying something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the cool thing, like doing it hybrid, is because now you're getting kids. I mean, that's what I want. That's why I do what I do, because I want kids to see different tricks and see the Flatland side and just see what you can actually do on your bike, and try and not just think of it as mastering one genre, but mastering the bike itself.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's good. That's
profound.
A really good point. Yeah, that's serious. No, really.
Yeah.
I mean, because going back to the roots when everyone rode everything pretty much, right? I started more as a street rider, and then I morphed into more Flatland.
Yeah.
And that was just the path that I took.
Exactly.
But so it's like reverse that process, and it's easier for a kid to buy a bike and go to the skate park or go to the trails. It's just an easier transition. So it's like if we can interject or at least present other Flatland Jam opportunities like Cornhuck. I mean, Cornhuck is the perfect example.
Yes.
But it could be at any skate park or any event. It's like just have some Flatlanders come out and just do their thing and be ever so welcoming.
Yeah.
And that would just.
I think you have to advertise to both very well. Like Flatlanders, all right, if you come out, we have our prizes for Flatlanders and doing their stuff. All right, we also have prizes for the street guys and park guys and dirt guys. And I think that would work out really well. I think you would see some just gnarly stuff go down. Because then guys are getting psyched on this Flatland, and they're like, dude, these guys are killing it. I want to kill it. I'm going to go do whatever on the ramp. And then the Flatland guys are like, oh my God, I would never try that, but that was awesome. I want to go bust out some Flatland so I could be at that level. You get that energy going. Everybody wants to try to just stay with that energy, and it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, it happened today.
Yeah, exactly.
All the Flatland people who were here were watching the other events, and then everybody went up and watched the Flatland event. And I would argue that the Flatland event, we already said it, but like had a more diverse range of riders getting the exact same loudness and level of praise as the best people.
Right.
Like it happened all day.
It happened
but
all
in
day.
the Flatland
Yeah, for
one,
sure.
it was like on another level. And I think you helped that by saying like, I don't care what they're doing or how weird it is or what level they're at. I want you to cheer like they did a triple backflip. I think that helps.
Yeah, and
making
I think it's
it
also
known.
going back to what we talked about earlier, where it's a little bit more. I want to say intense, but that's not the right word. It's like a little bit more intimate.
Yeah.
You know,
It's true.
We got, you know, obviously you got these big trails, you got these big courses, and of course you're going to feel that sense of appreciation when a young kid first drops in, you know, and pops out, and you know you get that. But you're on a stage almost. That's how I look at it.
Well, you can make a literal circle around Flatland, people riding Flatland.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like it was a great representation, and it can definitely be duplicated. And it doesn't have to be all about the competitive rider
Yeah.
of Flatland, because that's, you know, another level, and especially how it's separated so much over the years, that the top Flatland rider puts in some serious time.
What's their job at that point, right?
I mean, they're just like dedicated.
And they're dedicated to their run that they do for the contest, because they have to pull a perfect contest run, because then the other pro is going to pull a perfect contest run.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to do their hardest tricks possible flawlessly every
As
time.
consistent as possible.
Yeah.
And that takes a certain kind of rider that many people don't want to sign up for, because it's different than just going out with your buddies and just shredding the pump track and riding the trails.
But when you talk about the competitive side of those things, it is exactly the
Well,
same.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
So
That's
there
where
is-
you. That's
when
where
you
you
boil it
merge.
down,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
where you
they're the
merge the
same.
two.
But I think the competitive part matters because it brings a different kind of exposure. It brings a sponsorship money. It brings a lot of different things that you don't get when people are just riding in a parking lot by themselves, you know? And especially, again, me coming from the girls' side of the house, be without contests is how we get sponsorships, is how we get girls to have the free time to actually work and progress on stuff, which is what we're lacking on the women's side big time.
Yeah.
It all
Where I always
matters.
push harder on the
does all
contest side of the house because you can't get sponsors for girls and none of this
Yeah.
without the contest side coming up. So
Yeah, but
that's
here's
for
a
me
little
what-
fun fact for you, Kim. So I was in the UK, and I was talking to some of the riders there when I went to that jam in Manchester, and the rider, the woman that got gold in the Olympics, can't get a sponsor.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
I mean, and
Oh,
it's
I
not because she's a woman. It's like even the person that got bronze, and I can't think of the person's name, but the person that got bronze in the UK, there's no money in it. So
Hannah Roberts couldn't get a sponsor for years.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. But, you know, again, but competition is where sponsors want to bring money in. We're never going to get the big sponsorship money like we had in the early 90s without big competitions. So that's to me where that part, again, kind of matters. So again, are we looking to grow the sport underground, or are we looking to grow the sport where we can have money and sponsorships and stuff behind it and people can make a living? And people are
Yeah, I
on both
mean-
sides of that debate.
Yeah.
I know people are on both sides. So it
I
really
think
depends which end you're looking to grow.
I think it starts in the underground. man.
I feel like that's
I've got some words.
Yeah, okay. I just want to say, for me, it's like grassroots efforts, and like if that blossoms into an amazing series and amazing purses, great. I mean, obviously with the Flat Queens this year, there was some money involved and some good prizes. That was huge compared to last year. So that's working in that direction, but there's got to be like this, you know, surge of grassroots efforts.
It does. I think both.
Compared to any other sport, soccer or any other mainstream sport, baseball, that you see kids sign up for.
I mean, that's why it blew up in the 90s. So, like, the early 90s was the grassroots. BMX died in the late 80s. Died completely. Nobody was doing it. And then the core riders that kept riding pushed the sport to another level underground. And a lot of those people don't even know who those guys are nowadays.
Right. You did your research.
Yeah.
You did your research.
And now, you know, so from the early 90s, the late 90s, those grassroots guys made stuff happen. And then you had the X Games in the mid 90s. late 90s, and everybody was getting these crazy sponsorships. So it was from the grassroots guys,
Good point.
the core guys,
Right.
and then it just grew, and it just organically grew. It didn't just like, they weren't feeding it and forcing it to happen. They just kind of made it happen.
And I think part of what led to those crazy sponsors and all of those things happening is like a perfect storm of everything you just said leading up to something that is a way for these larger entities to make money.
Yeah.
Because if the larger entities and corporations and the people who are paying these checks can't make money, the rider's not making the money at all. And so what you had was two competing TV networks come together with, like, this was at the time of X Games and Dew Tour. Yeah. And that's where it really got crazy because they were competing with each other. And that's whenever you got all this big TV money coming in. So what I was going to say about what you were talking about with the contest and thing is, like, we live in a world where the internet is like the biggest tool that we can use. And so if you can combine the contest and the grassroots, and then you also use like the internet as a tool, because whether we like it or not, numbers on the internet matter. And that is where like the most, like where people are making the big money is like you see like the video game people, the Jake Paul, whatever type people on the internet. Those are the people making the most money. So if we could figure out how to leverage things like that, at the same time, you can throw more contests because you can use those numbers to move the companies in a way that's like, if we do this contest, like you'll get these people out and this thing and whatever, and you can try to do all of it. Because like with just a BMX contest, it's hard to get like a big company to want to throw money at it because they're like, well, what am I getting out of it? Right. We need that return on our investment. And that is where I think you try to leverage all the tools that are available.
Well, what's interesting, so Flat Queens, which Dave just mentioned, is an online girls flatland contest where you enter via an edit. Reclamation Bikes sponsored it. Who were the other sponsors?
But there's quite a few. I mean, I know
Reclamation, Haro, a couple other companies. Yeah. So, and I forget the number of girls in intermediate and expert, but there were 19 beginners this year, which for flatland for women is
that's huge.
Insanity.
Huge.
But if you ask most flatland riders, none of them have even watched a single one of the clips. They've never looked at the contest. So it also comes from, again, at least on the girls' side, we need support from our own sport. Mm-hmm. And again, this is where on the girls' side we really harp on contests being important because that's the only time we see support from the other riders. We can go do online contests all day long, and the guys don't even watch them. The rest of our sport doesn't even watch us.
Well, part of it too, though, I think could be like, imagine if we would have had that prepared to show that video footage here.
And that's the kind of things we need. We need the women to be able to be seen in a bigger market because just putting the clips online is not generating the interest.
Because you have to have the exposure.
So if you put girls in a contest, well, now at least people are seeing them and people are seeing this, which is again why I, as a girl, harp on the contest side. I think a lot more it matters to us, the women riders, than maybe it does to you guys thinking it doesn't matter if we get more people in beginner. For the girls, it matters a ton.
On those lines, did any of you guys pay attention to the EFES Flatland stuff that happened?
The problem with that stuff, it's hard to find streaming, I find, a lot of times.
Well, it was a video contest.
I didn't see that one.
No, I didn't see the EFES.
I think they did a Flatland section for that. Whereas literally like the concept you just explained.
You just entered it via a clip.
Yeah, during the pandemic, instead
the one
of
2-3 years ago?
Yeah,
I saw that
instead of doing the in-person thing,
yeah.
They did an
that,
internet contest, and I think that is a perfect example of what you're talking about because you have Feast, who's this bigger entity and has the access to the larger companies.
To the larger groups and
exactly.
Exposure. Yeah.
So you almost have to figure out how you can connect these dots to do all of it at the same time.
And even before we had Flat Queens, we had the Rad Girls edits, and it shocks me how many Flatlanders have even heard of Rad Girls. Like, we've done so much to try to push that and promote that and spent so much time on that, and it's still, I run into people all the time, like, have you seen the Rad Girls edits? No, I never watched them. And it's like, well, how do we get support from you guys?
Yeah.
That exists,
everywhere. I think it goes back to finding, ambassadors. Like, I go back to Bob Harrer. Like, everywhere he goes, every time he shows up, he's handing out stuff about what he's doing. And like everything he was about when I was riding for him back in the day was, where's the next show? How are we promoting it? How are we getting out there? Not that Flat Queens should do a tour, but like what would it take to go to, Flat Queens coming here and having, obviously they have the online contest.
The problem comes back to money. Girls typically have zero sponsors, they have zero support. So
I'm sorry. Thanks for another year. I was just telling you guys bye.
Oh, dude, you're done already?
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta get back home.
All right, man.
All right.
Glad you came to session.
Yeah, next time.
All right, man.
I'll shoot you guys like a message. I kind of get my car fixed.
All right.
So I was gonna try to get back out here too. So
Cool.
like right now here.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hit up Carl.
Carl?
Carl's the one who owns it. None of us have anything to do with this place.
yeah, we don't live here.
Well, I was just saying because I see you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
I was just saying, good session and another good year.
Yeah, man.
Cool, man. Take care.
See ya.
So, Kim, you were saying that.
What was I saying?
Well, I think I can pick it up.
Yeah.
Basically, I think what could help with what you're talking about specifically is this. What was it? My brain was gonna say scene queens. No, what was Flat Queens?
Flat Queens.
Flat Queens.
Oh, you were saying, can we get the girls here in person? And the problem is that we don't have any support for the women.
I was gonna help you with
So
that.
if we talk about the U.S., there are 4 girls actively riding Flatland, 1 girl in Canada. So to even get those 5 people in one spot is a struggle, and then all the other girls in other countries, and we don't have any resources to do that.
So what I think could help with that, and what I was trying to get at, but my brain, it's the end of Cornhucket, it can't get there, is like almost figuring out a way, and it sounds weird, but like branding these things and building a following behind these brands. So like the Flat Queens is like a brand that people follow, and they know that these things are happening. And you look at it like, you look at this group of people more than just a group of people, so that when you approach that larger entity that you want to try and help get you out to this event, you're like, we've built this thing, this is what we do, and this is what we can offer you, because that's what you ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to have something to offer the sponsor back.
And I would say that's what Bloom BMX is doing right now.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I was
It
gonna
is.
say, Blue BMX is doing a good job with that. Yeah.
Has gone to that route, but I will tell you, I still can ask most guy riders who have no idea what it is. With how much promotion they do, how many events they go to, throwing all this stuff, most of the guy riders still don't know who they are.
Oh, there's definitely a freaking very steep stair set that has to be climbed. It's a hard conversation, but I think is anyone else talking about this stuff? Outside of like being together and talking about it?
I'm working on maybe trying to start a YouTube channel. Don't put that part in the video, but I'm
It's
potentially
in
trying
there.
to start a YouTube channel to start talking about this stuff. I kind of threw one video up I did with Paula and 2 of the other girls, but then I got COVID, so it's kind of slow start at the moment. But I want to start something where we're just having conversations about it, not just posting photos.
Mm-hmm.
But again, will anybody watch it? Probably not. We're gonna start.
You start with 1, then they tell somebody, and then you have 2 and 3, and then you end up sitting here I don't have anything to do with Flatland other than riding with Trevor sometimes. But I've built this thing that I feel can help you guys, and you're gonna do exactly the same if you start.
Yeah,
And that's the thing too, like, it's not gonna happen overnight.
No.
And
Women in freestyle was around for how many years now?
Yeah,
How far
yeah.
did it get? I mean, it did get somewhere. It laid the roots where we are now, but still,
Yeah.
it never got as far as anybody felt like it should have in all those years.
yeah. Man, I had something on my brain.
Sorry.
No, I just lost it in train of thought. Like, I think that you need to have a couple girls with your mindset to help you with this and to push it. Because if nobody's pushing it, nothing's gonna get done.
And pushing it could look like you did it today. I heard you, because you said I think the one young girl that came out and rode, Eric's daughter. I
Yeah,
can't remember
I
her
was
name.
trying to talk her into maybe trying to do a flat comp and ride more. And
Right. So you
come
just
out.
said, hey, so it's like having a sticker, and I'm going back to like Bob Harrell. Like he mentioned to me one time, he's like, I always have swag. I always have something, a sticker that you give.
Yeah, when I was running the website, that's what I had.
Yeah,
Yeah,
give the
exactly.
kid a sticker and say, hey, go check this out, and tell your friends about it. And then going back to what you were saying, how we can use the technology that we have now, because it's much different than when I was riding. It was really grassroots, bike shops and just getting in front of as many people as possible. But with the internet and the YouTube channels and the Instagram accounts, that you can say, hey, go follow this and you'll be updated.
Yep.
And then having not just you, but other people that kind of are on that same thing where they're traveling. And you don't have to have a lot of money and a lot of sponsors to get that out.
No.
Get Reclamation to say, hey, can you fly me out to a couple of these events so I can promote the freestyle for the women,
Yeah.
because it's definitely, it can build for sure.
This is a perfect example of what I was saying with building the branding behind it. Because if you had like the whatever, if it's Flat Queens or whatever, you're like, follow this or check out this Instagram page, and you're
Yeah.
going to be able to see people just like me and potentially you. And then the more people you get behind that, the bigger it gets. And that's a great
Yeah.
representation of it.
Yeah, but like I know Dave said too, you need people with the same mindset, and we don't often have enough of the people that are
Yeah.
willing to help do that kind of pushing.
It's a small group. It's a small group.
And one person
It'd be
can
hard.
change a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Kim, think about it. If you went to every possible event that you could think of next year, and you just promoted Flat Queens, if that's
Whatever the
that's
thing is.
yeah,
Yeah,
whatever the thing
is,
is,
yeah.
and you just set your goal to like, okay, I'm gonna touch as many people's lives. I'm gonna take photos with these people. I'm gonna put it on my, and it takes effort and it takes dedication, but it pays in dividends over the time.
I mean, I did it for years at Winter Freestyle, but there was never any money, there was never any help, and that's where it eventually just dies.
And I think that's where Flatland is all these guys just don't promote it. You know?
Well-
They're not out there.
My point of view. I'm gonna talk about something I did, but Lip Lords. Lip Lords Instagram page is me. I'm the only person who runs that.
Yeah.
It's got thousands of followers. I haven't even done like a great job in the past few years,
But
or it
you've
would be
done
bigger.
it.
But I did it, and there's thousands of people, and then you've got people like there's the hashtag. So then people, obviously, because there's more people who do lip tricks than or whatever. There's more people who have access to this thing maybe than Flatland. But if you have the hashtag where anybody, maybe if you want to focus on the women's side, but if there's somebody who's focusing on just Flatland in general, who's like congregating, whatever the word is, aggregating it all into one place, or however it's gonna build that following in that thing. Like what I did with Lip Lords is like, it's one concept. It's a lip trick on a quarter pipe. And you got people all around the world who are like, oh, cool. I like this because I like lip tricks. I'm going to tag it every time I post a lip trick.
And then the crossover to when you do other things that talk about whatever you're covering, in this case, Flatland and the Flatland scene, then there's all this crossover that happens.
Yep.
So I think, for me, that's kind of what I want to grow BMX. So I just use that term, grow BMX. I don't necessarily say grow Flatland because I don't want to be pigeonholed into just Flatland, because it's like, okay, if the kid comes out and sees a show and wants to become whatever rider they become, that's great, but just grow BMX. And that this kind of event and doing more of events where there's people that haven't been exposed to much of what I do, like my specific little niche, and it inspires them, I feel like that's where I can make the biggest bang.
Yeah.
To get the word out, to just ride.
And I mean, the more riders you have, the more likely they're gonna see, the more riders you have in BMX, the more likely they're gonna go to Flatland or Street or whatever. You have more odds to pull more kids into certain genres, but the kids ultimately have that choice of what they want to do. And if Flatland's not their thing, it's not their thing,
Yeah.
It's hard to like, no, you need to ride Flatland, you know? It's like, dude, it takes a special person that wants to do it. It's a special mindset. It's not a huck fest. It's not a huck thing, you know? You can't just be like, oh, okay, I'm doing it, and you go do it. It's like, okay, I have to figure out how my body's positioned on the bike. I have to figure out where the balance point is. I have to figure out all this stuff. And it's not a hug fest. It's like, all right, I just gotta pull gently. I gotta do this. Okay, the trick's working now. Like, it's difficult, and it takes a special person. So I think just doing what we said earlier, doing stuff like Corn Hucket, I think that's the best way to grow it, just to see kids doing it. And if they don't specifically do Flatland, it might inspire them to go do more like the freestyle aspect, where they do a little bit of Flatland, but they're mainly riding ramps, so they might take it to the ramps and do whatever. And I don't know, it's a rocky road to try to get kids to do.
Well, here we are. So we did this last year, and now here we are. We're doing a follow-up.
Yeah.
So maybe we could take this opportunity to set ourselves some like goals or ambitions or wishes that we could project for the next year. Like, what could we do individually to build whatever we want to build?
You did one jam already that would help with that.
Well, hopefully do another jam in a month. We'll see.
So what about for you getting stickers, like what he was saying, funnel it all to one spot?
Well, I don't really have Women of Freestyle anymore, so I need to pick a new.
You don't have what?
Women of Freestyle anymore.
Okay.
I don't really run it anymore, so I need to either revive that or pick a new thing.
It could just be you. You can be an ambassador. I grant you that. Right?
I can't do that.
Right? I mean, come on.
It could be, yeah.
It could be.
You're like knighting me.
Yeah, because seriously, I mean, it does, right?
Yeah,
And that's the okay.
It doesn't matter as long as somebody gets it going. That's really it.
Yeah. So you have a sticker that's like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's what I'm about.
I was just saying today, I want to, because I used to make a lot of stickers. I kind of want to make stickers again, so I might start making stickers.
Yeah. And you?
Well, I usually throw the Changa contest every year,
Right.
and
Doesn't
some
have Flatland though.
no, and that's what guys were saying. Like, hey, why don't you have a Flatland contest? Now it'd be hard to do it, but
Upstairs?
I was thinking about maybe, you know, throwing an AFA, not an AFA contest, but maybe a Flatland contest and having somebody else deal with that. But it'd be upstairs and everybody can walk up there and check it out or whatever. I wanted it more in the skate park.
It's tough at Changa.
It's
Yeah,
tough
it's
at
tough because
Changa.
it's separation, right?
And I don't know if I can get it, if I can get another skate park to do that. Maybe modern, and like move some of the movable stuff that they have in the middle and making it where you could do Flatland in the middle and also the park.
I think it
stuff.
needs to be visible.
Yeah,
it needs
it
to
does
be
need
in
to be
the
yes.
heart of whatever the event is.
And that's
Okay.
why I never pulled the trigger on it.
Right.
Because, I mean, McGraw and those guys that run the AFA contest talked to me about it. And they were like, dude, why don't you just do both? And I'm like, I would love to. But Changa's
Where's-
not the setup for it.
Yeah, it's not exactly what it needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I mean, you can go that deep with it and start that crazy with it.
Yeah.
You could, but it also could be like, oh, I just throw a session at a skate park where I invite everybody, and we're gonna have these fun little pop-up event things, and
That's what I was thinking.
Flatland's one
I
of
think
them.
the jams
Yeah.
would be cool to do that, where it's like, all right, we have Flatland prizes and we have ramp prizes, and all right, longest, you know, funky chicken gets a prize, you know, whatever, and
Just
then
whatever,
highest air
yeah.
gets a prize, you know, and I think that would really pull BMX together.
I agree.
And I think BMX, like Flatland is the key to BMX. I think like if you have the roots of Flatland in you, you're gonna be a really well-rounded and a really talented rider.
I think you also, in this thing, it has to be brought up again. Just the fact that, like, when we're riding or when you're riding at Ray's or Chang or wherever it is, you go and ride, you want to ride Flatland, so you go to the flat bottom, and there are so many times where I see you showing someone Flatland tricks. So,
Yeah, they
like,
wanna learn
you're
it.
already doing it. Like,
Yeah.
so if you
They
just
want to
keep
learn it.
keep pushing
doing
what
that.
you're doing,
Yeah.
and like realize what you're doing when that's happening, because we're just having fun when we're doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But if
exactly.
you like realize what's happening at the same time, and it's some random kid who's like showing some promise, like
Yeah, for
maybe
sure.
you know, be a mentor even further is like a good goal thing that like what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I think doing the same that you're doing, but also make sure that you have like, I don't know, when you're out there on the flatland, you're just like, okay, where's the follow up?
Yeah,
Like you think about anything that, you know, you go and you say, hey, it was great riding with you. Let's get together, and then you set something. Like I'm thinking about having a little jam with people that want to learn more flatland on Saturday afternoon at 12 o'clock. If you want to meet me at this spot,
Yeah,
you know, that kind of thing.
that could work too.
Because it again, it's that organic effort
Yeah.
that could, and it's up to them. It's
And
like,
a lot of the times, like, there's a lot of kids that I've like, just hang five, for instance. I've showed a lot of kids how to do a hang five. It's, you know, and try to mentor them, try to get them to do it. And like, some kids will come up to me like years later, and they'll be like, "Dude, you taught me hang five. Look, I can do them." And they're doing hang five.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a really cool. That made me feel good. That I like just to teach them that is really cool. And they really didn't, you know, go any further like you were saying with it. They just learned hang five.
right.
But
But if you have like a consistent thing,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, by the way, we're doing a Saturday thing.
yeah,
If you want to make it out,
usually if any kid comes up to me and says, "Hey, I want to learn a flatland trick," I'm like, "Okay, let's go learn a flatland trick.
right?
Like, let's go."
Yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say is you don't even have to go that far with it. It's just like, because it's usually just kids at Ray's.
Yeah, it's
like
usually,
you're at Ray's and you're like, hey, let's go do a flatland trick. Like instead of just waiting until you feel like riding flatland and someone comes up, like you, the same kids around. Oh, hey, let's go do a flatland trick.
Yeah, and there's
Could be a
kids
step before, like, all right, hey, we're gonna ride flatland at Changa. You want to try this? And like for real?
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, any kid that wants to learn flatland, just, you know, and you're riding with me, just let me know, and I'll try to show you whatever you want to do.
What about you, Dave? I feel
Yeah.
like you already kind of embody exactly the goals you're talking about.
No, but I always
How do you
wanna,
go further?
Yeah, I want to go further. Like, so for me, it's like what you talked about earlier is using the technology to the best of my ability. And I'm not, I kind of missed that curve, so I don't have as much. I want things to be simple and easy. So I'd like to build a YouTube channel so I could start posting stuff on there, real basic flatland tricks, and then put in the comments like, hey, if there's something you want to learn, you know, put in the comments, and then build on it. And then if I can't do the time machine, you know, then I would say, okay, I'll get Pete Brandt to like do a little how-to on it, right? So I can pull in the network of riders, and part of it is like crossing over the boundaries of how difficult flatland can be, so learning really basic tricks, and then funneling it all through a channel.
Yep.
So that I can basically just say, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you want more, you know, let's do, you know, let me know what you want to see. And then, and I was talking to some people tonight, just brainstorming, and they were saying, do like live streams. Say, hey, I'm thinking about doing Saturday afternoon live stream. If you want to join us, and then I would just come and do it, and I would have other kids there that I'm teaching. So that's kind of my approach. I don't know where it would go, but
It's almost like you could do it with like Twitch streaming if you could set up cameras and stuff.
I think he's got a fantastic idea there.
No, that's a good
because
idea.
I mean, there's a million different. I mean, that's basically what my YouTube channel is for the other side of things, is like the informational. So you could take it even further and go like talk about different geometry with flatland and how
and the bike setup and
exactly
all
and,
that,
and you're teaching people, because I have never looked it up. I'm sure there's some videos and stuff on YouTube about those things, but like, is there even one single dedicated person who's like doing that?
Well, yeah, and I think it goes back to funneling it all back to a spot. So that if Trevor's like, oh yeah, by the way, I've got this good buddy Dave, and he's doing a lot with, you know, entry-level flatland riding, you might want to check out his channel.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Kim and an inspiring young woman that's interested, like, hey, Dave might have some, you know, aspects that could help.
Yeah.
And then I would just be feeding whatever comes up. Whoa, that was smooth, man. That was like so graceful. Was it because your shoes untied, or is it just
How
late
funny.
night?
I think all of it.
Come on.
But that is a really, really great idea because I don't know if that exists at all.
I think on some levels, but it's a little
Yeah.
sporadic. I know Martin Aparicio is doing a lot with his channel now.
Okay.
He's got a pretty good following. He's posting a lot of stuff. So that's great. There's another person. And again, I can say, hey, there's another, Martin's doing it. Follow his channel. And the biggest challenge for me is just to find the time I want the technology to be not all encompassing. I want it to be like I can just post it, do a clip, post it, and not have it be all consuming. That's the biggest challenge for me. I want it to
Hire
be
an
easy.
editor.
I know, yeah.
Get a volunteer. Gonna.
How do you do it? Like, so, I mean, you have how much footage of this right now?
This
And
has been almost an hour. Do
Jeez.
you want to know how I do it?
Yeah. I want to know
It's
how
an
you-
obsession, and this is literally my entire life. I've made videos since I was 13 years old.
Right.
And it was like a natural progression when I guess I'll go into it. I got laid off from a really good job that I had making videos for a factory in 2016. And I was like, I'm never having a full-time job ever again.
You're just going to do it on your own.
Well, I thought like YouTube is a great resource to potentially like be able to just ride and make videos. What I've done since I was 13 as my job.
Right.
And so I just at that point dedicated like
So your time put in.
Yeah.
So you got this clip, you got the whole Corin Huckett, and then you spend the next week, 2 weeks, 3. I mean, what does it take?
it's hours. I mean specifically for this event, it's going to be like probably 24 hours of editing, maybe more for all of what we do, but like on a daily basis because I upload a video every single day. And so what it's been is a gradual building of this library over the last 7 years of like, I have how to grind, how to tire tap, how to foot jam, how to drop in, how to air out, how to hit a spine, how to bunny hop.
Yeah.
Building this content of like, I said the content word, dang it. Building this library
all
of like
about content.
informational resource so that anybody who's never ridden before can go onto there, find like what I tried to do was just the best possible version of this thing. So like you don't have to go as crazy as I did.
Yeah.
To where like you upload a video every single day, but like if you commit yourself to like, I'll make you give yourself a layout of what you want and what you think makes sense for people to learn in an order if you want to do it that way, or whatever you want to do, but you figure out what makes
and
the most.
what they would request.
Yeah.
And then I could basically use my resources to tap in, like I was saying, to other people that would do a trick that
Yeah.
maybe that's not in my repertoire. Because there's a lot. Like I have obviously the old school genre that I'm covering, but there's so much.
You have a
that's
good
happened.
core of basic tricks.
Yeah, which I
Very
think is
good
which
core.
is really good because it's like this entry level for anyone. And you were gone for that part, but what I was saying is like we could all network each other to say if you have somebody that's like, oh well, check out Trevor's channel, check out Dave's channel. They might have some insight on some tricks that you could learn or what have.
And if you become the resource where like, oh, if you need to learn like what the handlebar geometry is in regards to Flatland, Dave Norrie's got the video on that on his YouTube channel. Check that out, or frames or whatever. And then you also have like the most basic tricks at the same time, and you do a good job of explaining them. You become a resource that people seek out, and you become that thing, that funnel where people get sent. So when Kim is introducing scene
Yeah.
queens,
Yeah.
flat queens, when you're introducing like younger girls to Flatland, you say, check out Dave Norrie's YouTube channel if you need a bike. This is where you learn what bike you get.
Yeah.
This is what you need. This is where you learn the basics of Flatland.
And what I just realized is like, think about back in the day, it was magazines, and they had the bike checks. They had, and people would just, that was the tool. So it's like if we create that on an online version, that's basically what your point is. It's like,
And you know what's awesome?
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, just that you cover, you know, so like I was thinking about like my bike is very specific for my riding, but I have other bikes in my, I have like 20 bikes right now. I have like all these different sizes. So I'm like, look, if you're the age or the weight of this size, then this would be the bike you could look at. It's a 16-inch bike. It has front and back brakes. It's made by this company. It has a gyro. You know, this is a great entry-level bike.
Yep.
It's much different than what you would buy at a department store because, and go through that. So the parents are going to go, oh, I see. And granted, it's quite a bit more money, but it's also the right tool for them to really be introduced to a very specific sport, as opposed to trying to do flatland on a bike that's just not safe for one, and also just not really functional.
Yep.
Something I always wanted to do that I never got around to was make a website that was just links to all of the content like that. Like, hey, you're starting out, this is what you need. Watch this
Dude,
video for
please
this.
do it.
Watch this video for this. Just
Kim,
something to help me kind of figure out what to put
Kim,
up. I
please
can build
do that.
You
websites.
just make the YouTube channel with all the videos, and she'll send people
and you
to
just
that.
make a
I know.
website page. And I kind of had that at Women of Freestyle. Women of Freestyle had sections for getting started. Here's how you buy a bike. Here's what you need for a flatland bike, a street bike, a ramp bike, and it had like general to-do lists. But I always wanted to make a bigger site that was just a portal to just other people's content for covering literally all those things you just said.
Yep.
Because then you don't have to do the work of making each individual piece, but you just bring it together.
Then that's your
That's
brand.
if they
That's
already.
brand.
That's your
That's
brand.
if they already
then.
exist, though, because with Flatland, maybe they don't exist yet, and that's where like some
I
that
think
what
it
you
all
do.
exists. It's just so spread out.
Yeah.
It's not-
Like there's people making YouTube videos. A lot of flatlanders making YouTube videos, but there's nothing brought together.
You had a point that you were.
Well, what I was gonna say is like if you do what you're talking about, or you do what we're talking about with all of this, once it starts building, that's where you grow the value for these sponsors that you're talking about to throw these contests, because you have this resource. You're building your channel if you do it, and you have people watching. You can go to the companies and be like, look, I've got all these people watching. We can throw this contest and I can be a part of it. And then it can be a part of what I'm doing or what you're doing. And it immediately brings legitimacy and value to a company who doesn't care who Dave Norrie is.
Right.
Or
They're
who
just
Kim
looking at
is
the
or
exposure
Trevor.
and the numbers. Yeah.
They're trying to see, how am I going to make this money back with more, because I have to get a return on my investment. And it sucks to talk like that. It really does, because there's people who hate hearing that, but that is the reality of the world we live in.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, there are companies out there that don't have that as a high priority, like Reclamation Bikes. You know, and like Carl, I don't know how Carl has pulled off so much that he's pulled off, but it's amazing that kids can just come here and ride, you know? So there is that, you know, there are definitely people that are willing to also grant, give, and fund, you know, and it's finding that. So even if you approach, even if you have this great YouTube following and you're building this momentum, and you can approach somebody that wants to support just an avenue for kids to get off the streets and do something, you know, active and challenging.
Yep. Or if it's a blog that has everything in one place, you can sell advertising to the companies. You sell advertising on the YouTube channel, whatever. There's, with the internet, there's an unlimited potential for avenues to take whatever you guys wanted to do with it. I didn't mean for this to become a seminar on social
We covered a lot of
networking,
I
but
know,
like,
but I think it's kind of fun to set, because we did this last year, and like where we are today, and just to recap, like the event today was amazing because we had so much diversity. We had 20 riders of all levels. We got this great exposure. There's definitely a ripple effect that's happening because of that. So if we can duplicate more of that, both on a grassroots level, like you were mentioning, contest or events, and or on the internet, like those two, using both those, because we still have both. Back in the 80s, we didn't have the internet. Now we do. So it's like, how can we,
Incorporate
how
that.
I and we can do that, make sure that we're using those resources as well as the grassroots, and traveling to whatever events we can do, and promoting just riding and
Because
flatland.
nothing beats watching somebody doing it live.
Yeah.
When you see it live, you're just like, whoa, like it looks just like the video, and it's you're just mesmerized by it.
Yep.
And
That's exactly my perspective. I mean, today is like the third time I've ever seen Flatland in person, and it's still, watching you ride is still just like, how? I don't get it. It's amazing. Basically.
Great.
So on that note, I feel like real progress even just comes from this conversation.
Absolutely.
I hope that people watch and receive it well and don't immediately turn it off whenever I got upset for a second. But I appreciate that you guys are all in a mindset of wanting to help enough to have a conversation like this, and because sometimes that's all it takes is just talking about it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, I thank you for the opportunity and using your, audience to expose it to what we're thinking about or what we're considering or what we hold, valuable.
It's the whole point. I mean, BMX doesn't happen with one singular person, and we all rely on each other for everything. Nobody has ever gone through their whole BMX career without learning something from somebody else or having help from other people. So that's the whole point.
yeah.
And I think we all do a good job of just trying to help. It's awesome. So, who are you?
Dave Norrie. You'll find my YouTube channel, Dave Norrie. And Instagram is Dave Norrie. Facebook is Dave Norrie.
He's Dave Norrie on the internet.
Nourie.
What about you?
I'm Trevor Watring. I have a Instagram, Trevor Watring, and me and Paul with Dustin on Tech Bike Co. And
You can find him at Ray's.
you can find me at Ray's or Changa riding.
And spell your last name so people can find you easily.
It's on the screen. He doesn't
on
have
the
to
screen.
spell
It's
it.
on the screen.
It's on the screen. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, good.
What about
We
you,
have the
Kim?
internet.
Kim Klisiak. I'm mostly known for promoting women of freestyle BMX. On Instagram, it's Kimix, Kimix, at _WFBMX.com.
There you go. And I'll make sure to keep up with these people. If they keep moving these things forward and you start seeing Queens.
And I knew my Instagram handle this year, so I'm moving up in the world.
There we go. So on that note,
I didn't know it last year.
that's great. She's prepared all year for this moment.
Yeah.
On that note, though, I hope that this helps. That's the whole point. So follow all of them. Check out what they're doing. I hope next year we can do an even better update and
Exactly.
have more, and maybe even have something for your channel.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure.
right?
Maybe we'll do one. We'll do a little thing for each other's channel.
There we go.
Cool.
So we'll see where we're at in a year. Subscribe, and hopefully you're enjoying the Corn Huck stuff. We'll see you tomorrow.